Welcome to the show, Councilman Gunderson.
Hi.
Hi.
Glad to be back. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. I know that I've been talking to you a lot lately about coming back on the show, and you've kind of been putting me off until you had some solid information or something, as you've said, kind of worth sharing. So
a little project.
Yes.
First, I'd like to do a little plug about a wall on J Street.
Okay.
The owners have said that they're willing to look at proposals for a mural that's graffiti, American graffiti based, and that they'd like to see what people have to offer. This has been flying for about a month, and I hadn't really had any response yet from any artists. And so I just need some response from artists, and we'll see what we can do with the selection and donors, and I'll work on it.
Now, does this go hand in hand with the other project that you were working on? I think it was called graffiti art or something like that.
Well, there was a program with Youth for Christ. They were working with taggers where they would actually become muralists, and are working in that direction. And Aaron Vickery has been mentoring this group. And we have a wall that was approved by an owner, willing to work, approved. We even have a design that's been approved. They agreed to, and everything's good to go, except that the taggers don't really attend the meetings like we hoped, and so I guess it's put on hold for a little while. Hopefully it'll get going.
Well, let's make a request, because this is local TV here in the Central Valley, and sometimes that's all the channels that local people get, because we don't pay into cable.
It's just like everything. Nothing happens unless you get involved.
Yeah, so you taggers, call Councilman Gunderson. He's also on Facebook. Modesto Councilman, I think, is your Facebook page.
It's John Gunderson under my name, and yeah, it's a Facebook. It's open. I post a lot of information, including this information on this property tax issue we're about to discuss.
You know, it's funny. You are a councilman who has been elected, and you are currently serving office. And I have to say, you know, for being the quiet council person who I have heard about, you know, it's like, oh, Councilman Gunderson, he's the quiet one. You sure stir that pot, especially on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I write better than I speak. And the mayor and I were just talking about that. He said, well, you didn't quite assert yourself on that motion. That's why things didn't work the way you wanted it. And so you got to be more forceful. Like his exact words say, if we're to bomb the world tomorrow and blow it all up, you got to say it like that and mean it. And we had an interesting discussions just prior to my arriving here, and we did talk about the property tax. It's convoluted, it really is.
Well, let's get right to it. What is this? Property taxes for 2011, 2012?
Yes, I took data from the state controller's office, what was collected. This is unsecured property tax and secured property, put it together. And then I took data from the county.
Go ahead, keep talking.
The counties, actually I looked at 3 counties, Merced, San Joaquin, and Stanislaus. And I started crunching numbers, working for percentages, and I got some interesting data out of it. And actually, I enjoyed it. It was very informative, and in looking at the numbers, Stanislaus County has a problem that needs to be addressed.
What problem specifically are you talking about now?
We don't get our fair share, and this
Fair
has been
share
going.
from the state?
I was told by the county controller that the money doesn't go to the state, that it's redistributed by their office according to the state formulas.
Okay, so we pay a county tax that goes to the county and to the state, and we're not getting it back? I don't understand.
It goes to the county, it's redistributed, and I do have some monies that I can't account for according to their pie charts, and that was kind of interesting too. It was quite a large amount.
Okay, so this is property tax. So I live not in the city of Modesto. I live in the county, but my address is Modesto.
Yeah, I'm just pretty much
So
looking at it from the county side of it.
I would fall in this category. I pay county taxes.
The cities, it's I hadn't really gotten to the point where I can really crunch the numbers for cities because I just don't have enough data.
Mm-hmm.
But what the state and the county provided, I was able to crunch numbers, and what I came up with is pretty interesting, especially with the comparison between San Joaquin and Stanislaus. We are similar in a lot of ways. They do have a larger population, but basically we're fairly similar. We're largely agricultural based, and our towns are comparable.
Okay, I don't think we're going to be able to run it on the big screen, so we're going to run it on here. Which one would you like to pull up first?
The one.
The one? Okay,
Yeah.
101? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll pull this up, and then I'll turn
Well, that's
it
just
around.
the introduction. Well, let's skip that part.
Okay.
Go to.
Okay, we'll pull this up, and I'll make it big here so that...
What I learned was there were some articles on the internet, of course, and there's lots of them. Prior to Prop 13, counties decided on how they would allocate their property tax, who got what, cities, special districts, education, and they divvied it up according to how the county wanted to do it. After Prop 13, that changed. Oh, that's a good picture, yes. So now the state decides their formula, how they want to do it, and this is where we start to get in trouble. AB 8 was done in 1979, and it set the formulas to the percentages that were established before Prop 13. Whatever the county had, it ended up with that. And with AB 8 in 1979, Stanislaus County was designated a negative bailout county along with Lassen, Trinity, Plumas, Alpine, and Mariposa counties. We don't really have a lot in common with those counties. But next slide.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn this around, so if we can... There we go. We're doing it the old-fashioned way.
This is how people call us, it's a rural designation. That's how a lot of people describe this problem.
Now, what is a no bailout? What does that mean?
I'm not sure. It has something to do with the amount of health and welfare services we provide. And back in 1979, they weren't that much. We were fairly rural, not like we are now. And we didn't spend that much on health and welfare and services of that nature. So the state took that into consideration, and essentially Stanislaus County was fiscally responsible, didn't spend a lot, and so that's how the state interpreted us. Now, with the AB 8, there was no adjustment for change. There was no mechanism, because things do change. We've changed. We're nothing like we were in 1979, so we haven't adjusted.
Why haven't we adjusted? I mean, that's like,
because our legislature...
34, almost 35 years ago?
Yeah, our legislature can't act. It's either they get something through and the governor vetoes it, or the legislatures can't agree on something. Actually, I heard the governor had vetoed a number of measures to try and remedy this problem. And
so is it because of that we are not getting our proper amount coming back to us from the state? And now, am I saying that correctly, that it's coming back from the state, right?
I was told by the county controller that nothing goes to the state, that it's all, we distribute according to how the state tells us how to do it.
Okay, so it stays in the county, but the state gives us guidelines of how to distribute it amongst...
They call it law, by law.
Okay.
It's law.
There we go. Okay, so what is this next one?
Okay, AB 8 put us in that category, and we have to live with it. There's been attempts to change that. And then more confusion was thrown in the mix with Proposition 172 in 1994. And this was to try to mitigate the harm that the ERAF has done, which is the educational... It was on another slide. But we have something called ERAF, which is, it augments what we pay towards education. the state was in a budget crisis in the early 90s, and they decided to penalize the counties for that, in that they had to provide more money for education, so the state wasn't responsible for that. And from what I could learn, that seems to be the real sticker, is the amount that we pay for education.
How did
And-
I know education was going to be in there?
Yeah. So it's kind of sad, really, because we do need education, but we may be paying too much for it. The state may not be assisting us to the extent that it should.
And from what I understand, what you're saying is we haven't really done much follow-up with this since 1979 and 19...
Yeah, there's been attempts. The half-cent sales tax for public safety was implemented. That was a proposition in 1994, and that was to offset the harm that the ERAF was going to do to us, so that we could, still continue to have public safety. It's supposed to be totally for that, and that I guess was a good thing, but
And we're not talking $10. We're talking like
millions.
millions of
Yeah,
dollars.
this is millions. And this is state budgetary thing. This is county budget, city budget, everything budget.
Tell us a little bit about this pie chart.
This is what the counties provide. They give you a pie chart to explain where the money's going to on the property taxes. This is for Stanislaus County. We get 11%, or the county gets 11%. The cities lumped together. I couldn't pull them out separately at this point. I'm open to get to that, but it's complicated. They get 6%. I was told it was more, but with the data that I got, that's what it came to. Special districts are like volunteer fire departments, maybe Salida Sewer Plant, I think that's a special district, things like that. Little entities that are scattered throughout the county, they get 4%. Redevelopment agencies, that's like the JPA for county city, and downtown that's a redevelopment project. We pay into that to pay the bills or the debt that's on those projects. And that's the redevelopment agency at 7%. ERAF and schools are together, that's all education. And together, Stanislaus County pays total to schools is 59.14%, and that's a pretty big chunk of the pie. That would include the orange chunk and the larger blue chunk there at the bottom of the pie chart.
So since we have not been redistributing this according to 2013, what does that mean? Does that mean that some facilities are not getting...
Well, from my perspective, City Modesto doesn't have the money it needs to do what it needs to do. You can go to the next one.
Okay.
And, like Ray comes in and tells council that, we're not doing a good job on the mistletoe.
Ray
He does
being-
it constantly. Ray, I forget his name, last name, but he used to work
The
for
tree
city.
stalwart.
The tree guy.
Yeah, that comes
That
in
guy's-
every week.
I'm impressed. I love him. He's right.
like Ray.
We aren't doing enough with the mistletoe, but that's part of the problem. We can't take care of our trees properly. We're one of the lowest cities in the state as far as the state of our roads go. Our roads are not doing very well.
I can attest to that.
Yeah, we're considered to be on the lower end of healthy roads. And that's a problem.
Tell us a little bit about this chart here.
We skipped one, but that's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
That's okay. I'm doing a comparison with San Joaquin and Stanislaus side by side. How much was collected in property tax. At the bottom, you have your population. This is for 2011-12, and to the county, it gives you percentage, and then compares San Joaquin to Stanislaus, 14.88 to 9.13. this is percentage. This isn't dollar amounts. This is a piece of the pie. How much is the pie is getting? So the county's not really comparable to, our county is not really that comparable to San Joaquin in the amount of dollars that we receive. Cities, there's a difference. And those percentages, they amount to a lot of money. We're talking millions here. And that's how you get things done. The school pie is really what's really different. There's about a 17.45% difference between San Joaquin and our county. And so we pay a large proportion towards education, much larger than San Joaquin. And that, I found that startling. On a per person based on population, I figured $419 per person for San Joaquin County versus our $478 per person. And it's a $59 difference. And I've had this explained to me by the mayor just a little while ago, and we were hashing over it, and it's very complicated. There's different ways of looking at this. I worked with a way that is available to the public, readily available. You can just get the information, the numbers, and you can crunch it out yourself as best you can.
This was the one that we skipped. It was on San Joaquin. Do you want to?
No.
Okay.
The last one, I don't think you'd be able to read it, but that's where
We'll bring it up
attempts
anyway.
at solutions were made.
We'll see if we can focus tight on this.
There was a AB 76, and there's something called Chapter 94 in that bill that essentially legislature declared that the existing property tax allocation system is to be seriously flawed, or well, my word would be dysfunctional. It's not working, at least for us. And this was to give some options to revamp the system. And one of them was to increase taxpayer knowledge. And it was my belief that anybody should be able to understand this in layman's terms. And it's not really available to us in layman's terms as to where our tax dollars are going. It's a puzzle, and to sift through it is really a hassle. And I think state and county should do that for us, explain it so that we understand it.
Well, I have a question here to kind of wrap up this segment, and that is, if this has not been redistributed from 1979 or revamped, and it seems like there's been a few attempts to kind of modify it, but not really to the extent of what it needs to be done.
Nothing's been done.
Where is all this money going that's unaccountable? Is it going into the county's general fund?
Well, I've been conversing with the controller's office, and he said, well, I think that's bonds. He believed that it was bonds, voter-approved bonds. And I'm still digging to get where that is going. You know, maybe some of it's going to San Francisco to pay for their schools. I don't know. That was the mayor was telling me. He said that the state takes away money for us to give to the big cities for their schools. And so we really need to try to understand where this money's going, where our tax dollars are going. I'd prefer we get 100% and we keep 100% within our county, and the state should make up for whatever it should be paying for our schools like it used to. When I was on the school board, we had something called deferred payments. And this was said to be a money owed to the school districts in the state that amounted to somewhere between $40 to $60 billion. Essentially, the state has been borrowing from education, much like the Fed borrows from Social Security, and that's another problem. So I think, you know, we had the Proposition 13, that was sales tax for education. Maybe the state's going to use that money to offset its deferred payments, when I don't know that that's really fair. If it is, that's what they're doing, then they should say so.
Do you have this posted online? Do you have a blog by any chance?
It's my Facebook.
Okay.
This is all on my Facebook. I have the supporting articles, and the articles are very interesting reading. They're a bit complicated, but you can garner some understanding from it as to what's going on and what has been tried tried to been done to remedy this. And you know, there is awareness. Adam Grace, he's interested in this, as is Kristen Olson. I heard she was very interested and conversed with her. I did email this to most of the elected officials in the county, my little report, and I suppose I did get some response, not a lot. I hadn't heard anything from the supervisors, but you know, the mayor told me I had some of this wrong, some of my figures are wrong. He was telling me from his memory what he knew it to be, and I'm just doing it from what the numbers said that were available to me from reports of the county and the state. So I think we really do need to have a better way to examine this and understand it for the ordinary layman. The ordinary taxpayer should be able to have this information in a form that's readily understood.
I believe that you have about 2.5, 3 more years as a city councilman. Is this going to be one of your projects to kind of keep dogging to get that information to the taxpayers?
It probably should be, because this concerns our city. I keep hearing it over and over. One of the mantras I've heard is that, oh, San Joaquin gets 22%, Stanislaus gets 11%, and that's a big discrepancy, and it affects all of us. So really, it should be my project, it should be the supervisor's project, it should be council. Everybody should be in on this, because we're Stanislaus County, and we're the ones that are at the very bottom of all the counties in the state as far as this distribution system goes. We are hurting more than anybody. And you wouldn't really think it to look at us. We're doing pretty good, but yeah, we do have problems. And one of the major problems is our lack of funding for police. And we're going to have to try and maybe have a half-cent sales tax to get our police force up to strength.
Well, that's another subject for
subject.
next time. So I'm going to be gone, let's see, I'll be here next Monday, but then I'll be gone for 2 Mondays thereafter. So hopefully in about a month, we can have you back and we can talk about this some more, see if you have any more information.
I'll try and keep working on this. It's tough. You know, the controller's office of the county, they're not really enthusiastic about this, talking about it, but yeah, I'll persevere. I hope others will start taking an interest, try to find out more, and you know, speak out a little bit. Ask your elected officials to pay attention to this problem. And you know, this is our Stanislaus County problem. It's us.
Well, thank you for joining me this evening, and don't go away. We'll go ahead and introduce Emerson Drake here in just a minute, but I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking about this, and keep up the good work on the council.